This video gathers a couple of techniques which may help when creating materials with the Maxwell material editor. It's not my goal here to demonstrate how to set things up for, say, the perfect rusty iron material. I will rather discuss some not immediately obvious features which may prove useful for any sort of material creation. Whenever one wants to create a material which uses textures, one will first need to load these. One way of doing this is to open the image loader by double-clicking any of the map slots. Alternatively, one could just right-click on that slot. That brings up the texture editor when it's not already open. The texture editor offers a file loader as well, which lets you pick an image from your file system. Through this interface, you have immediate access to tiling parameters and also a set of advanced controls. If you want to set the repetition of a particular image, you can do it here, but you can also invert it or non-destructively change color values. When precision is required, you can type in values or use these little arrows. Another neat way to quickly change values is to place the cursor into one of the input fields and to drag up and down. If you want the spinner to move not quite as fast, you can drag in a diagonal line instead. Now let's say that you'd like to reuse a particular image several times in an MXM. Instead of using the file import dialog again and again, you can also simply drag and drop that map from one slot to the next. This also works across BSDFs and layers. Speaking of drag and drop, the same principle is also available for color values. Also, these can get copied from one slot to the other, and again, this works across layers and BSDFs. Color slots, in addition, also have a right-click function. This turns your cursor into a color picker. That function may serve as an alternative way to transfer a certain color from slot to slot, but the picker also works anywhere in the Rhino viewport, in fact, anywhere on your screens. Watch my cursor disappear to the left to a secondary monitor. Here I'm sampling a color from an open Photoshop document, and the swatch turns yellow. I'll now load up a few more images and by that show yet another elegant way to hook up texture maps. One can simply bring up Windows Explorer and drag and drop from here. The same limbo should work with any dedicated image browser. I'm using Adobe Bridge here. Okay, now I have a material with several layers, but I'm not yet happy with the tiling. I would like to increase the overall repetition rate. And as in this case, as you can see, all the maps were originally derived from one and the same input image. I would like to increase the tiling uniformly so that everything looks equal. Do I now have to go through all the slots and tweak values one by one? Some of you might say, yeah, you have to, because I forgot checking use override inside the texture editor when first loading the individual maps. Indeed, this is a very handy function to synchronize map tiling values, so to say. However, there's some cool features which have been the plugin for a long time, which are more powerful than that. When I enter, say, 5 as the new repetition value and press enter, it will of course only affect the active map. When changing over to the roughness channel, you can see that it is unchanged. Now I do the same thing again. I type in a new value, but this time I hold Ctrl and Shift while I confirm the value change with enter. Look at that. Now all the changes are propagated throughout the whole multi-layer material. But what if I only wanted to synchronize values for the present BSDF? One can do that as well. In this case, one only had to press Ctrl. I find this keyboard mapping actually quite easy to memorize. One modifier key means changes are limited to just the active BSDF. Pressing more than one modifier means any other map in that material gets changed. While the use override parameter is there to set the projection properties of single maps or also arbitrary groups of maps, also across layers, the hotkey driven modifications actually can do quite a bit more. Holding down Ctrl-Shift while clicking this particular checkbox turns on interpolation for all referenced images inside this material, across layers. Dragging here with Ctrl-Shift pressed will rotate all images in the material. Here it will change the saturation of everything. That's probably something you rather don't want, as it will also affect the grayscale values for roughness and displacement maps. Also, an accidentally inverted normal map, quasi via remote control, won't contribute anything meaningful to the rendered image. So, as a word of warning, as useful as they are, these modifier actions are also a perfect means to spoil everything with just a couple of clicks. I would like to showcase one more use case for these modifiers. Earlier on, I have already shown how to copy maps from slot to slot by drag and drop. Here I'm looking at a map which got distorted quite a bit. And if I now feel that I need another layer and I would like to reuse that particular map, I can of course do so. Watch what happens when I simply drag this map over to another layer. All the modifications will get reset. This might be exactly what you want, or not. In case that the existing modifications do make sense and you would like to reuse them on another layer, just again hold the Control and Shift key and all the tweaks will travel along with the map. One very last thing maybe. Say that I'm unhappy with one of the source maps in a way that I need to use an image editor to fix the issue. Of course, I could always have the image editor open, load that image to the file system and then resave. Another quick way to do this is demonstrated here. One can not only drag and drop images to the material editor, but one can also drag and drop from the material editor into Photoshop or whatever other program you like.